Our today's topic is how you can save a person from suicide tendency. We all know that suicide is a deliberate act of killing one's own self out of depression, mental disorder, or in protest. The roots of suicide lay in the mind or in society. The rate of suicide these days among the youth has gone up to alarming proportions. The young people in general sometimes fail to look at the bigger picture of life. Even momentary despair sometimes turns them so helpless that they start feeling there is no end to the dark tunnel. The pain assumes such a magnitude that they try to seek relief in death. They feel that this is the permanent solution to the problem they are facing. The causes of suicide are long and deep. It is the outcome of low self-worth magnified by crucially disturbing incidents. In many cases, the origins of stress that lead to suicide can be traced back to the young age, like family troubles, financial problems in the family, relationship-related problems in the family, change in the family dynamics. The family situation sometimes gives rise to stress in such a way that the child starts feeling stressed. There are other problems like inability to cope with the discriminations or stresses on the campus or the hostels. Inability to cope with the academic stresses also sometimes lead to the development of suicide tendencies. Sometimes children are separated from their parents. They have relationship breakups or too much struggle in everyday life. Or sometimes they are forced to take drugs or alcohol against their will. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, all these are also very strong reasons of stress that lead the children to such extreme states like committing suicide. These apart, there is the problem of failing to live up to parents' expectations, poor academic performances, setting a high standard for one's own career, which they cannot reach. All these cause such a deep depression in them that they take this extreme step in the long run. There are other factors like social discrimination. Social discrimination leads to lowering of self-worth or self-esteem. There is the history of suicide in the family, trauma or loss of near and dear ones, feeling neglected by the family can be one reason. There is also the problem of chronic or terminal illness. All these factors can be called risk factors that cause depression and ultimately lead a person towards suicide. In such a mental state, how do these people feel? They feel very, very lonely, alone, unloved, uncared for, feel worthless, a liability, a person who is misunderstood by his or her friends and families. That is the feeling that they nurture. They become ultra-sensitive to criticism, unable to bear with frustration, and overpowered by the feeling that the situation will never end. The dark tunnel is not going to end. There is no silver lining in future for them. Some signs become prominent in the overall looks and movements of such a person. And when we observe these changes, we should become alert and careful about the persons. These are called warning signs. What are the warning signs that we find in a deeply depressed person? One sign of depression may be found in the dark circles around their eyes. Dark circles, dim eyes, all these give the impression that something is seriously wrong with this person. Right from this moment, we should become alert. There is rise in anxiety and tensions. Sometimes they are found to be giving up hobbies, sports, jobs, and other such signs may be found in the act of giving away their prized possessions, the dear things that they had collected over time, things that are of passion to him or her. They give away such things at ease, without care. They don't have any concern for personal appearances, and also overeating or undereating are such signs. They show lack of energy and interest in everything, become abnormally quiet or aggressive. They develop signs of sleeplessness. These are general signs that can usually be observed in these depressed persons who are developing signs of suicide tendencies. Now comes the all-important question of how to combat these tendencies. How you can save a person from suicide tendency. How these people can be brought out of this situation, this mental state. The responsibility lies with others. Others meaning members of the family and friends. The person is so depressed that it is difficult for him to take the remedial states. The remedial states can be taken by the near and dear ones of the depressed person. Now, what are these states? That is important. First and foremost, you should be a good listener, a patient listener. Don't act superior. Don't give any value judgment to what the person says, or don't ever try to solve his or her problem, the problems of the depressed person. Just keep listening. Just keep listening. Listen to him as much as you can. You should manifest the signs of a caring person, that you are carefully listening to what he has to say. This gives the person a feeling that there is someone who really cares for him. There is at least someone around who has the time and interest in listening to the causes of his helplessness. Secondly, try to point out the changes you have noticed in her. If you can point out the changes you have noticed, she will feel that you are a person who takes care of her or him. This is a very important feeling to develop in the depressed person. Be serious about his or her crisis. The seriousness should be expressed in your words and in your behavior pattern. Try to give constant signals to the depressed person that you are a friend, you are his companion, you care for him, and the depressed person is quite important to you. These signals work wonders because the depressed person is under a deep and strong feeling of rejection, of being left out by all, feeling neglected. So the all-important necessity is to give him companionship. Assure him or her that you are there as a constant companion, caring for him or her always. And your companionship should be a steady one. Just 1 or 2 sessions of listening or caring do not suffice. It needs to be long term. I have seen such persons who have ultimately committed suicide because there was no one to give him or her constant companionship. The person has to be brought out of the feeling of rejection. That is very important. That has a medicinal effect on the depressed person. At the same time, it is tragic but true that all the cases of depressed persons do not lay in the mind. It is there in society, in institutions, at workplaces. Social discrimination, racial discrimination, cultural discriminations are so deep-rooted in these places that only mental therapy, psychological counseling do not suffice to bring these people back to life. The change has to be made in the system, in the social structure. We cannot always root out the suicide tendency from the minds of the depressed person by counseling them or giving them psychological support. In conclusion, I would like to point out that very serious cases of suicide tendencies need urgent steps. They should not be left alone. They should always be kept under watch. Family physicians should be called if necessary, and weapons like knives should be kept away from them as much as possible, and these persons should be under constant watch. So they should never be left alone. Only empathy, long and deep, can bring love of life back into the mind of these people who suffer this kind of depression. We hope we all will be able to act and give support to such people who are around us. Thank you, friends. That's all for today. I hope you have been able to realize what I wanted to tell you, what I wanted to convey. More in your next session. Thank you. Have a good day.